You are now listening to CTR Media Network.
The family, CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are, the media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above par. Never lasting, motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions that you're asking. Serious talks and topics, how to come up and profit, how to better yourself, your health is here. We got it, reaching 350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network. Start the show. CTR Media Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to CTR Media Network TV, where we help podcasters, entrepreneurs, and content creators be seen, be heard, get amplified. Today, I am so excited because we are bringing yet another powerhouse guest who knows how to transform small business struggles into big business wins. Joining us today is Dan Grech. He is an award-winning former journalist turned entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Biz Hack Academy with over 20 years of experience spanning from NPR, PBS, and the Washington Post. Dan has trained thousands of small businesses with his lead building system and thought leadership pyramid to generate leads, grow faster with AI, and harness the power of storytelling. So if you are wondering how to market smarter, not harder, how to leverage AI without getting lost in the tech, and how to tell your brand story in a way that truly connects, then this episode is right for you. So let's welcome to the show, without further ado, the amazing Dan Grech. Welcome, Dan, to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all that you do for small businesses everywhere.
Oh, yes, but what you're doing, you're going to help them grow. I just bring the right people onto the show, and we have the conversations that help them, get out of their own way and just finally be able to understand the nuances of what business is, because as business owners or content creators, we start because we have a dream, we have a vision, we want to help people, but we may not necessarily be a business whiz. We might just not know business. We just know what we do. And so I'm glad to have you here. So Dan, with such a powerful career spanning from journalism, and then you're transitioning from that into entrepreneurship, with smart business marketing, can you share with us the turning point that led to you saying, okay, storytelling is the connector, and how do you help business owners be able to connect their story to their business?
Yeah. Well, I discovered journalism and journalistic storytelling when I was a junior in high school, and I was assigned to the school newspaper. And the very first story that I did ended up exposing a theft ring that was led by the head of campus security, who ended up getting fired. So that was like the first couple months of my journalism career. I remember seeing people reading my article and the impact it had, and I was just hooked. And I had an almost 20-year career from there, reached the highest levels of journalism, Washington Post, NPR, PBS. And then, like so many journalists, lost my job and moved into the business arena. I chose to do marketing because marketing is like business storytelling. But I kept encountering this curious thing, which is small businesses like the ones that you serve don't always do a really good job of telling their own story. And so over time, at first it was more like curiosity. Like I would be working with a business, I'd be taking one of my courses in AI powered marketing, or back then just digital marketing. And I'd be like, well, who are you, the person behind the business? I can read about your product or service on your website, but I can't read about the person behind it. And I know that when I do business with small businesses, I do business with the owner.
Yeah.
first, you know, and I'm really connected to who's that person behind the counter. And so, you know, just over time, it started really more as like curiosity, like who is this person and why do they do what they do? And why does their work matter? And then it became like a methodology, like, well, let's get that story written down. Let's get that story on their website. Let's get that story in their social media. Hey, let's base hiring around the values that are embedded in that story. Let's um, build business relationships with the community, with partners, with vendors based on what's in that story. And oh, by the way, if you write down why you do what you do and why it matters, it helps with mindset as well. It reminds you why you're doing this, why you're sacrificing for this, why you're putting your family through this, why you're taking so much time and effort. And you know, you could just work for someone. Like, why are you doing this? And the ups and the downs of entrepreneurship, it helps smooth those out as well. And so, like over 10 years of doing this with more than 1,000 businesses, I developed a system and a methodology for it. And I'm writing a book now with Bella, which is a publishing house, so that I can share this as widely as possible.
You know what? What you said is so true with businesses. We have products and services, but we disconnect in a way of we want to sell before we tell them our story. And so the fact that you're pulling us back from, okay, I'm selling this product, I'm selling this service, I know it's going to help, to let me get to know you. And you said something that's very, very crucial, which I feel that small business owners miss, is that when individuals do business with a small business like us, it's required that we give them a personal story so they can connect with our brand. And so I think that is absolutely amazing. So with this new era, we are in a digital era. And so what are some ways that business owners that may be kind of like, I don't really want to do AI, but they know they need to kind of learn it, or they may be a little bit afraid. So tell us a little bit how AI can actually help with the marketing and help with helping to scale a small business owner or even a content creator.
Yeah. So let me start by saying AI is a tool, and like many tools, it can be a distraction. Just like social media is a tool, and it can be a giant black hole of time, and you get no outcomes. So what I would say is focus on the human to human connection between you and your customers by telling your business story, why you do what you do and why it matters, and then leverage AI to help you get noisy about it. So, what I would say is step one, and this is just my perspective, like I believe all marketing and all revenue generation, all sales is human to human. And so you have to establish a human connection, and AI cannot replace you in that equation. AI can just help you say it better, say it faster, say it in more places. So I really want to center the conversation on AI around the human connection that's built around your genuine story and your core values. And so get that written down and then feed it into ChatGPT. And then you could say, how do I put that on my about page on my website? How do they craft that for a bio for my upcoming talk? How do I incorporate that into a sales pitch and let it be your thought partner in how to use it? But it's got to be you taking that first step. They call this human in the loop of documenting that business story, which is, I define it as why you do what you do and why it matters.
Okay, so once the business owner get what they do, and why it matters, and like you said, having that human to human connection, and then basically, like you said, using AI as a tool instead of replacing you from connecting with humans. And I agree with you. There is something about person to person contact that builds that not only loyalty, but it's authentic. And I have found that every person that I meet in person that I had some type of connection with, they stay longer, and then they bring other people, you know. So you talk about, you have this, what they call a lead building system. So what is that? And how can we build this system? And you talk about a leadership pyramid. So can you speak a little bit about both of those things?
Yeah. So the thing about AI is AI by definition is really generic. unless you train it to speak like you. And so the first step is to train the AI. And this sounds like really scary and complicated, but it's not. Um, Most of us use ChatGPT, but all of the different models have something similar to this, where you can actually put in instructions. And inside of those instructions, you should give it what I call a style guide. And the style guide is my voice, my tone of voice, the way I write, the approach I take, how I like to be referred to, and then your business story, like what are my core values, who am I? And then you just put that in, and that could be a custom GPT. It could be the instructions for a project. And then everything it writes will be coming from that tone of voice. That's like step number one. It's the most important and basic thing you can do to take AI and make it a tool. And then when it comes to being a thought leader, you really need to define what is your thought leadership focus, right? So like, let's just take you, Tina. Tina, what are you a deep expert in? What is your thought leadership focus?
My focus is helping podcasters, small content creators, such as podcasters and TV hosts, be able to amplify their voice, leveraging the power of podcasting, TV, and media to do it.
Great. So I love that. So you're serving small content producers. So you've talked about who your audience is, and you've talked about like the value you're providing, which is giving them tips, techniques, best practices, examples, and case studies for how to do that, for their company, right? And so, a portion of everything you produce is going to be educational content. So if you pull little sound bites out of this conversation, that's a good example of educational content. Some of it's going to be more conversion related, where you're like basically asking them to do business with you. And the best way to do that when it comes to content is what's called a lead magnet, which is you give them something for free, like a guide or a mini course, or typical examples, in exchange for their contact info. And then now you have their contact info, you can add them to your mailing list, and you can actually do some sales outreach. And that, at a high level, is that you have the thought leadership focus, who you're serving and what your value you're providing. And then you have the pillars, which are the types of content you're creating. 80% educational, 20% more sales related, conversion related. And that's like just kind of a very general approach. Every business owner that wants to be a thought leader, every business owner that wants to be a leading light in their industry, who wants to give speeches and so forth, should be doing that. Now, once you've loaded into the ChatGPT, what is your thought leadership focus and what are the type of content you want to create, it can then be it can be very helpful in helping you create that content. And the more that you feed into it, the better the content that will come out. So like one of my favorite things to do is like use it as like a brainstorm partner. Say, give me an example of a post you've done recently, or an idea you have for a post that's coming up.
Well, today I put out, are you ready to make a decision? I didn't tell them about what. I didn't tell them what the contents was, because I wanted them to think about what is the last thing that you need to make a decision on that you have not done yet. And then after I put that out on social media, then I went live and I talked about that very topic.
That's nice. And what so here's what I'm going to just riff on it just to show you how you can think about it. So that's called a hook, right? Like an intriguing question is a hook. And so now it's like, you can kind of think of it as clickbait, right? It's like the thing that gets people to click to learn more. And so you could do a post then about, all of the things that we do to stop ourselves from making decisions and how that holds us back. You could talk about the psychology of indecision and how that relates to feelings of inadequacy. You could talk about the, like the power of just making a decision, even a small decision, that's on the road towards the bigger decision. So like, let's say the decision is, man, should I divorce my wife? Right? Well, is there a small decision that you can make on the path to bigger decisions that doesn't feel quite so scary as divorcing your wife, right? Like maybe could I go out with friends this Friday by myself, or have a conversation with someone I trust, right? And go and schedule that meetings. And what is the next action? Anyway, I'm just making this up, but the point is, you start with like an intriguing hook that gets them connected, and then you build content around it. And you can use ChatGPT to, you could load in that hook. You could say, hey, ChatGPT, you know who I am. I'm Tina Ramsey. I have this thought leadership focus. I just put out a post called, are you ready to make a decision? What should I talk about in my upcoming podcast on the topic? And like, you can like brainstorm with it. And it comes not from a generic sense, but knowing who you are. You could load transcripts of previous podcasts, so it even knows what you've said in the past. You could say, what have I said in the past about the importance of decision making? What are some areas that I've never covered before, so that I'm covering new ground? You know who my ideal audience is. What are the kinds of decisions that they need to make that are holding them back? And yeah, you can take that little hook that you woke up with or thought about in the shower, and then you can have like a producer who knows you and your show really, really well for free.
That's great. That's great. And so you speak a lot about purpose-driven marketing, and that what you just described, it has a purpose. So you went with the post that I just did today, then the video that I came behind it, and then of course I'm going to have a point to why I'm saying what I'm saying, which I wanted individuals who said they're going to go to our event, the Media and Wealth Summit, to go ahead and get their tickets. Okay. And because this is going to help them, and you're going to have me face to face where you can ask me anything you want to ask me for free. After you purchase your ticket, I'm there because I want to not only answer your questions, but also I want to know what you want, and I want to be able to help you get what you want based upon what I know and all the people that's in this room that can help you, right? And so when I think about that, how can one of the things that small business owners I hear all the time when it's dealing with marketing, in particular marketing, is that they don't want to sound salesy. So do you have any suggestions on how they can come across more authentic, bringing the value of their communication, what you were talking about, person to person, without them coming along and saying, hey, buy now for $19.99. You can get it right now. Just click the button. Even though that's the way we're told on television, but they don't necessarily transition well in small business. So do you have any suggestions on that?
Yeah, well, that is the core of the story-driven approach. Is the best way to not be salesy is to tell a story. And there's a couple of different kinds of stories that you can tell. And so I call that your story bank, right? Like as a salesperson, you have a set of stories ready to go. There are stories that talk about the value of your product, right? Like how it will make them more money or give them value. And you could give a quick example of somebody who came to you, who did business with you and was much better off at the end. You could talk about a purpose or core values story where you could say, look, the reason I'm doing this work is because I am honoring, the memory of my grandma and everything she taught me. And so, what you're expressing there is that I'm someone you can trust, and that is doing this for the right reasons and with integrity. You could even have stories prepared for the common objections. I don't have enough time. I don't have the money right now for this, right? Those are the most common objections. I actually was on the receiving end recently of a really good, lesson in the form of a story. My coach, she said to me, hey, Dan, I noticed that you're sending, I help business owners write their story. And so I send them text with, hey, here's the welcome email. Here are 2 versions of it. Which one do you like better? She's like, don't do that. But instead of saying don't do that, what she said is, I went recently to the hairdresser with my son. And the hairdresser we usually use just says, hey, show me a quick picture, or describe to me what you want them to look like, and I'll take care of everything from there. Or if you don't have a picture, do you want them to look like this? And they'll show them a picture in a magazine. And then it's taken care of, and you end up looking like the person in the magazine. They got a new hairdresser, and the hairdresser was like, well, do you want me to use 7 or 9 clippers? Do you want to have a curved or a square back? Do you want me to use scissors on the side of the head, or do you want me to use clippers? You know, how long do you want the top to be? In other words, they were asking all of these questions. And I've been in that exact experience where, like, the hairdresser, the barber is just asking me a million questions, and all I want them is, like, they're the expert. Just tell me what to do. And by doing that, she was coaching me that I don't want to give my clients the options. Just tell them this is the right thing. I'm an expert. I know what you need. Here's the recommendation. And so I went in and created the version that I thought was the best and resubmitted it and said, actually, here's what I'm recommending you use. You know, if they don't like it, they can make some corrections. But it's a much better approach to when you're doing high value services where you're being hired as an expert. So that's just like a little example of how you can use a story to deliver a message. And that's what you want to do in a sales context as well. And the sharper the stories and the more honed their delivery, the more you practice it, the more effective they'll be in a sales setting. Like, really what you want to do is you want to create a vision for the future that they want, and then a really simple path to how you'll get them from here to there. And so in a sales setting, the best way to sell is to talk about the benefits that they'll get and stories of people who come out the other side.
Okay, so you said something that kind of piqued my attention when you was explaining. Number one, you was talking about high tier clients. So let's talk about that a little bit. When I think about the difference between a high tier client, and that's ones that's normally, for those of you who are watching or listening, that I like to say the comma money. Okay, that's the ones that when you do business with them, they most likely it's a couple thousand. Then you have what we call the ones that actually keep the business going, which I like to call them this. You might not, is the ones that may not pay the high ticket pricing with your company, but they may pay the $27, the $99, the $199 per month. What is the difference of the way that we should approach them? Because I know personally working with people that is in the bracket of a $10,000 client versus a $27 client, it's totally different on how we as a business owner need to provide our services to them. So could you give them a little example of how that can be done effectively and still not taking away the value, not taking away the premium experience, regardless of what the price point is, if I'm making any sense to you right now?
Yeah, no, it's really, really clear what you're saying. And they're all part of a value ladder. So it's not like either $97 or, $19.99. Like that's not how you should think about it. It should
open, they all have their place.
Exactly. So the way you want to think about it is what I call the buyer's journey. And this is just like classic marketing, but there's the first part of the buyer's journey, once they've learned a little bit about you, is the free irresistible offer, or what's called the lead magnet. And this is where you give them something in exchange for their contact information and permission to stay in touch. So you need a really strong free irresistible offer, a guide, a free course, an event is a good free irresistible offer where they have to, even a webinar where they have to they have to log in with their email. People are very prepared to do that kind of thing. So now you're in touch with them. You've given them a free irresistible offer. Then you want a foot in the door offer. You want them to open their wallet, and it doesn't matter how much. It could be $1. Studies have shown that the second someone has paid you $1, they're much, much more likely to pay you more money than if they haven't paid you anything. So if you want to get from 0 to 1, that's what the foot in the door offer is all about. And that might be like a 30-minute consultation, or that might be, hey, fill out this assessment and I'll give you this report. I don't know. You have to figure out what that low cost offer is. And then in the low cost offer, you provide value, but you only take them so far. For my company, it's sort of like, I can help you define your story, but how to use it, which is where the rubber hits the road, that's going to cost you more money. So, okay, here is an example of your story. It's a lower cost, lower tier offer. But now, like, how do you deploy that in sales and marketing and hiring? That's where you're going to need the full consulting offer, and that's what the offer is your core offer. And then there's offers that come out, right, which are the upsells or the premiums. And that's the value ladder. So it starts with a free irresistible offer, a foot in the door offer, your core offer, the upsell offer. Often in my case, it's like, I don't want to just live off of, $5,000 projects. I want to have recurring retainer clients. And so my upsell offer is, let's meet a couple times a month and I'll stay on retainer, supporting you in your implementation. And that's really where the business is built, in those retainer clients.
Yes, I agree with you. The ones that has committed to say, hey, I'm coming back and I'm going to stay around. And so we all want to be to that point. And so I wanted them to kind of hear from you, Dan, how it actually builds up. And you gave a great illustration of the step ladder, because I don't know anybody that don't know what a ladder is. So you can actually visual, because I'm a visual learner, of how you can actually start and build up, and still keeping in mind, you want to always provide value to the people, no matter what level they come in with you at, because that's building that relationship. But with this new era that we're living in, I call it, how can we try to future proof our business, in the sense that, from your perspective, what trends that you see in digital marketing that podcasters and entrepreneurs we should at least start implementing now in 2025, so that we can kind of be ahead of the curve, or at least be current?
Yeah, so my deep expertise is in how to work with ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, specifically to create content. And, I'm going really, really deep into all the techniques for doing that. It's a pretty complicated space. There are other people who are really good at, and the primary output for me is text, and that text could be used for social media posts. It could be for the book, outlines that I'm writing. It could be for blog posts related to my thought leadership focus. It could be for sales emails and sales proposals, right? That's sort of where I'm spending most of my time. And I think, I get better at it every day, but it evolves because the tools change so quickly. So you have to just be doing it constantly and studying it. Like, I'm paying right now a very high priced consultant who is helping me get better and better and better at that. And, and I'm incorporating new tools. Like, I recently started to play with Notebook LM, which is a Google product, which is really good for research. So, like, if you have 50 or 100 transcripts and you want to find the golden nuggets, it does that really, really well. And so, so that's sort of the journey that I'm on. And, that's what I spend my days doing. And that's what I teach others how to do. And that is combined with the story-driven growth approach. It's an unbeatable. So it's like AI is unlocking your ability to tell your story, and to do it across all channels, hiring, sales, marketing, and it just makes it easier to be really consistent with that, so that your values are underlying everything you communicate to, no matter who the stakeholder is.
That's great. When you think about how everything is changing now, would you say that there is like one particular mindset, maybe, that every entrepreneur needs to have as they thrive or want to thrive in this new, ever evolving landscape of business? Because business now is not what it was 10 years ago with AI and everything else. So, what particular mindset do you feel, or what do you have to have in order for you to consistently be innovative? Because I'm hearing that you are taking hold of all this AI and innovation to master what you already know that you do well, and you are allowing it to make you better.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little immodest right now, Dr. Tina. I'm going from, like, I have a master's degree in writing. I spent 15 years at the highest levels of journalism. I'm a great writer.
Mhm.
I'm one of those few people where ChatGPT is not as good a writer as me. But I'm a 95th percentile writer. I'm going to, by the end of this, be 99th percentile. I'm going to be one of the best in the world. And
Mm.
this is all about like leaning into what you're already great at and what you love. Like nobody can match me on this. Nobody. And it sounds a little immodest, but like we all have our zones of genius, and this is mine. And I've
Mhm.
spent 30 years working on this and honing this. And no AI is as good as me, but AI can be a tool to help make me better. And so learning how to leverage AI to take me from like best best in the state to best in the world. That's what I'm focusing my personal learning and development on. Now, what mindset am I taking? It's an abundance mindset. There's two
Oh, I
mindsets
love.
I want to share with you, but the first
Mhm.
is abundance. Like, we're not living, Tina, in a scarcity world. We're living in a world of infinite possibility. And that's one of the great gifts of living in the United States. I don't want to like minimize the challenges that folks face, and I'm coming from a privileged perspective, guy. But I can tell you, my father's Spain, and I've spent a lot of time in America. And one of the things that someone said to me recently is, I can smell money in the air. They were visiting from overseas, and they're like, God, in the United States, there's so many opportunities. I can smell money in the air. And it's true. Like there are just a lot of ways to make money. When I was a sixth grader, I sold blow pops, and I made a ton of money. Like there's just money everywhere here. It's not to say that it's easy. You have to work your butt off, but it's there. In other places, it's like not there. You just don't have those opportunities. So that's number one is just believe. Wake up every day and don't say I can do this. Say I have done this, right? And just like project forward and then say it happened and talk about it and make it manifest and make it a reality. And um it's really hard to maintain that mindset with all the stuff that's going on and challenges and the economy and the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. But that's what like meditation and a regular practice of mindset shifting is. So that's number one. I work every day, I meditate every day, and I'm thinking about like I've finally at age 48, I figured out like what my sweet spot is, like why I was put on this earth. Like, God put me on this earth to help small business owners tell their business story so they can make more money and live a better life. It's like so clear to me, and everything has been leading up to this, but it took me decades to figure it out. But now that I figured it out, like I'm on fire, man. You can't stop me. And so that's the other mindset, which is a story-driven growth mindset, which is story-driven growth is maybe another way of saying purpose-driven or values-driven. You know, your mama taught you to be a certain way, and you that was embedded in you as a child, and you're living forward those lessons, right? That's what it means to be story driven, right? Is to identify what were the lessons that mama taught me that I'm now manifesting in my daily work, in the business I'm running and the relationships I'm building. And then tell that story until you're tired of telling it and tell it again. Like tell it to everybody. And what's interesting is nobody ever tires about hearing about that. And you never like my favorite example, like I have a bunch of, I think of them as precision instruments. Like each story to create a certain effect on the audience. So I'll tell you a story that's designed to make you like and trust me, right? And this is like a story I'll use with an audience, which is, my mother was a art teacher in inner city, teaching underdog subjects to underdog students. I used to visit. I grew up in the rich suburbs, and I would like take the train into town into inner city school, and I would visit my mom. And her last station, her last assignment as a teacher, 35 years, was to be the art teacher at a school for dropouts. And there were these giant, like they had a full-time daycare because almost everybody there had dropped out because they had a kid, and then they wanted to come back and get their GED. And my mom was like teaching art, which was like a non-required subject, but her classes were full. I would come there after school and it would be filled with young men and women in their 20s and 30s, full beards, towering over my tiny little Jewish mom. And they're like, Mrs. Grech, do you like my drawing? And I was just like, oh my God, like this is not about art. This is about self. And that's what my mom did. And that's like what I do in my work too. It's like, I do marketing. This is like a lot of that that my mom taught me that's baked into it. So that's an example of a story that's specifically designed to make you know that you can trust me. Because another story I tell, this is my journalism career ended with a public firing. It got published in the newspaper. It was humiliating. I lost friends, I lost my career, I lost my self-identity, and I was a mess. And I had to pick myself up off the ground, reinvent, and I reinvented first as a marketer, then as a marketing educator, and then as a business owner. And I realized that my purpose in life was to build my business and help others build theirs. So what does that story do, right? That story is really designed, it's very specific now to the business and why I started the business. But it also talks about, like, it makes me relatable, right? Rather than some gold-plated, Pulitzer journalist who went to Princeton and, worked for the Washington Post. I'm a guy hired and was left with nothing to start over in the middle of his life. Now I'm a lot more relatable. Those bona fides, which are all true, are helpful when you want to charge a lot of money for your services. But when it comes down to it, nobody wants to do business with a know-it-all. They want to do business with someone who's lived and experienced its ups and downs with them. That's why I tell that story, is to be really relatable, but it's very deeply related to the problems for them. So, I have this, not as many as you think. I have 3 primary stories in my story bank, and then little anecdotes for specific use cases in my story bank for particular sales, or I actually use my story bank mostly in sales, like when I'm trying to overcome an objection, or in hiring and managing my team when I want to try to reinforce the core values in terms of, like, you behaved in a way, I'm not going to say in exactly these terms, but like when someone behaves in a way that violates our core values, rather than say, dude, you violated our core values, you're on probation, say, hey, let me tell you a story about someone who honored our core values. I'd like you to and ask, how you have approached it differently. And so I have stories for each of the core values that help with managing and motivating the team. You're on mute.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because those are some great examples on how we can navigate our story and become better storytellers. But with that being said, many people today, I tell people, do not try to do stuff on your own. Get the people who know what they're doing so they can get you to point A to point B quicker, faster, with less problems, because they already have the system. So could you please tell us about your Biz Hack Academy and who you are servicing, and where they can go at to find your services and everything like that? Because you just gave us 3 hacks right there. You gave us more than that, but I'm talking about what you just did.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, storytelling is the root hack. This is actually a term I borrowed from the guy who made Love Hack, very high-end Google couch. And his business story was his root hack that helped him grow build our business. The best way for you to engage with me on the storytelling stuff is to go to my website, the storydrivenbusiness.com. And if you go there, you'll get to two things: a bunch of resources that can help you, but also an invitation to come and meet with me for a free consultation. And one of the things I love to do in those consultations is, help you unearth your childhood influence story. Like the story that I think people know the least well is the childhood influence story. Like what I explained about my mother. Like, story is absent from business. About their roots and where they came from. It'll help people understand where they're on the journey. So it's the story business.
I agree. So again, you want them to go to what the website is again. Is anything else that you would like to share with our viewing and listening audience before we go?
Yeah, so what I really want to say is a lot of business owners white knuckle growth. White knuckling is when you hold on to something so tight your knuckles get white. And there's a time and a place for that. Sometimes we call it hustling. Sometimes we call it the grind. But the sooner you can get off that treadmill and grow smarter rather than work harder, the more likely you are to make it in the long run. Like, I truly believe that most businesses fail because their owner gives up. So the best way to avoid giving up is by centering your work on your values and the why you do what you do and the why it matters. And so if you get really tight and clear on that, and you share that with everyone you can and remind yourself of it, it will make it less likely that you just give up. And so that's my main advice. It's like simple advice, but I can tell you very few business owners take it. And I'm on a mission to just spread the word that you can actually create a far more successful business if you take a story-driven approach. And I'm not at all going to say that this is the only way to succeed. There are lots of different paths to roads to success, but I have a strong feeling, Dr. Tina, that your listeners are particularly purpose-driven individuals. Mm-hmm. And if you consider yourself a values-driven or purpose-driven person, if you consider yourself someone who puts purpose above profit, mm-hmm. if you see the work you do as a mission in the religious sense, that you're on and you are a voice piece of God doing work in this world. Like, if any of that resonates with you, you've got to take a minute and articulate your business story and tell it to everyone you know. Because what you're going to see is just get easier. Mm-hmm. It's a magnet. It's a magnet for prosperity, but it's also a magnet that repels, which is the best part of the magnet, trust me, is like it'll repel the people who don't align with your values. If you speak about your values, the ones you're trying to fulfill, mm-hmm. it will turn on people. And you want that because those are not your clients.
I love that. I love that mindset, because at the end of the day, you want the right people. You don't want all people. The right people that you're here on this earth to help. And I really loved your transparency on this interview, where you actually just said, listen, I finally got it. I'm like 40 plus years old, but I finally know and I'm 40 something too. And I'm like, I know what you're talking about, because I finally I understand my purpose. I know why I'm on this earth. And you just operate differently when you know that you know that you know. And so the only process to do after that is to get better at what you do, because now you know exactly, you're not wasting time. That's what I would say. Because I used to waste a lot of time in my 20s and 30s. But now that I'm in these 40s, I'm like, I finally understand why it took me to get here today. So I appreciate you sharing that part, because at the end of the day, once you turn that light on for that, and then everybody that watched this show is purpose driven in some kind of way, shape, or form, value driven, but they don't tell their story. they don't necessarily tell their story. So I feel like this interview, this particular episode is going to be that thing that make the puzzle complete, because they had the outer edges, even had some of the inside, but they didn't have the center. And what you're speaking of is, I feel, for our viewing and listening audience, going to benefit from, is that you're giving us the core, the center to what really drives a purpose, value driven entrepreneur, content creator, or person. So do you have anything else you want to say, or any other website you want to send them to, or whatever like that?
Yeah, we do marketing and AI training at bizhack.com, and the story driven business will take you to a page on the BizHack Academy website. But I'm here to talk about the business story and leveraging AI to help tell it. But I did want to share this one thought before we wrap, which is, like, it's a scary time, to be honest. And business is uncertain, the world is uncertain, and this thought occurred to me that I just want to share with your listeners, because it was so small but moving. I heard this voice in my head say, Dan, it's going to be okay. And I like started to cry. There's so much going on, and it's not easy, but it's going to be okay. And I really do believe that. Like, if I stay true to my purpose, if I stay true and I do it with integrity, and I don't try to push, the harder sometimes the less it's, and just believe that abundance mentality, and it will be okay. And we'll have the best version of our lives.
I 1000% agree with you. It is going to be okay. All right. And I tell people that all the time. It's going to be fine. Take a deep breath. Relax, relate, release. Okay. I got that from a TV show in the 90s, but but anyway, it's going to be okay. So Dan, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your expertise in the power of storytelling, and how connecting our businesses with storytelling for purpose-driven and value-driven individuals and business owners can actually be, I feel like it's the secret sauce, because there you have the heart and the core of who the person is. And it's not selling anymore. It's just telling. It's just telling at the end of the day. So have a great, amazing rest of your day, everyone. Dan was absolutely amazing. Make sure to check out his BizHack Academy, and also the website that he gave you as well. This episode was packed with actionable strategies for not only entrepreneurs, but podcast content creators, entrepreneurs. Take the information that Dan gave you and go on to his website to see what else he has to offer, because he has a plethora of information that can be of service to you, and decide where you want to fit in his economy over there to help you create your story. As I said before, I will say again, this is not the time for you to try to figure out everything on your own. Okay, that is slowing you up from what you're supposed to be doing. You have to learn that in order for you to have what you're supposed to have in this abundance, it's like a circle wheel where you have to literally pay in order to receive. You got to give in order to receive. So get used to that posture so that you can get to where you need to go faster, easier, with less problem, because individuals like him and the other people that we have on our show, the other guests, they have the blueprint to what you want. So again, amazing episode. You guys come to our Media and Wealth Summit. We're going to be sharing amazing information in regards to podcast and media marketing, branding, communications, finances, with wealth building, dealing with your personal credit, your business credit, investors, grants. We're going to be giving away grants. We're also going to be doing some amazing giveaways with cash money, grants, electronics. The list goes on and on. But not only that, we're going to also be having, we're going to feed you. We're going to dance. We're going to have a good time. And we are going to be giving out some awards to some amazing people that are making a positive impact within the community. You guys go ahead and download the CTR Media Network app so you can take our amazing content along with the other podcasts and content creators on CTR Media Network on the go. You can watch us as you're commuting. Well, not if you're driving. You can listen if you're driving. But if you're commuting on the bus or the train, you can actually watch and listen to our amazing episodes and also the other podcasters. Again, thank you so much for being a part of CTR Media Network TV. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a great day. Bye.
CTR Media Network is now accepting new podcasters to join our growing network that's reaching 350 million global listeners. Have you heard? CTR Media Network offers podcast production, podcast training, distribution, and product placement. Book us for your next event or schedule an interview with CTR Media Network podcasters today. To learn more, go to ctrmedianetwork.com.